Hi, it's James Willoughby bringing you another edition of What's Going On in the Austin Real Estate Market. We are one full calendar week past Thanksgiving, and we want to see what's happening in terms of total inventory. We've been talking about this every week for some time, and we can see that our inventory continues to go down. In fact, we're only at 9,077, so we're fully 1,000 listings fewer than what we had, in October and November. So our inventory is definitely dropping. If you look at last year's graph, we were at 8649, so they're pretty darn close. We're now putting enough information together over the next couple of weeks. We can kind of predict the future in terms of what's going to happen the beginning of next year. And let's look at that. So we always look at new active listings versus new pendings. That's kind of like what happened for that week. Okay, now last week, or the week before last, rather, it ended right after Thanksgiving. You can see our new pendings dropped from way up here at 673 down to 508. And then this week they jumped back up to 645. Okay, so we're running at a pretty decent clip, surprisingly, in my opinion. Because last year the numbers were lower in terms of what we did after Thanksgiving. Now, you can see we plunged as far as new actives, which is expected during Thanksgiving. Then the number came back up. You can still see the new active listings, the inventory coming on the market, is being outstripped by, 75 homes right now every week. It's been pretty consistent for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So what that means is that's causing the total inventory to go down. But if we keep scrolling here, we go to failed listings year over year. And let me, just so we can see it better, I'll click off of 2022 just to show you 2023. So at the end of every year, like this says, right here, this is January. First week of January. Well, really, these failed listings in the first week of January were really from the very end of the year. So there's a big spike at the end of each month, as we've talked about before, and you can clearly see it here. At the end of every month, there's a big spike. And then here in November, at the end of November, we saw 506 listings be removed from the market where they either failed to sell and the listing was terminated because of the termination date, or was withdrawn for the holidays and may come back on the market in the spring. So nonetheless, that causes the split here of 500 plus an additional 75 more sales than new listings last week means our inventory is going to drop, which is good as a seller. That causes our weeks of inventory to drop as well. Now, these spiky marks here, this is, of course, Thanksgiving week. So we went way up on inventory. Well, that's short-lived. And because, remember what we're doing is we're looking at total number of pendings divided by divided into the number of listings. So whatever sold that week versus the total inventory. So it was a slower week, obviously, because it was Thanksgiving week. Last week was a good week, and so we went from 18 weeks of inventory down to 14. Now, if we were to use a smooth graph here, this would be, maybe like a monthly total. It'd be way smoother, but you can see like we sold enough homes last week to put our weeks of inventory all the way back to like September. Okay. And so we're definitely going the right direction if you're a seller. And let me show you why. We look at our weekly interest rate chart and what's causing this kind of unusual activity. We go way over here. Remember, rates peaked at the end of October, 7.79. That was a 23-year high. And I was selling real estate at that rate with those interest rates. And honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal, but we were also coming off even higher rates, from the decade before. But you can see that inventory interest rates have actually dropped every single week since the height. Now we're at 7.22, so they even dropped a hair this last week, okay? So that's causing people to realize that rates are not going to keep going up. In fact, we think they're going to go down. Now we're going to see some dramatic drops in interest rates. I doubt it. There's nothing to cause a dramatic drop, but this is a pretty good drop from here to here because that's over 0.5%, which absolutely is helping out with demand. So it's all supply and demand. Real estate's actually very simple if you think about it. It's timing, supply and demand, what you have to offer, and of course your price as it relates to other homes that are for sale at any given time. Got a lot of other graphs here that we'll talk about in the future. And I think that next week will be a kind of a prediction of what's going to happen for really the rest of the month and what's going to happen the beginning of next year. So until then, have a great week. Be sure to call, text, or email with any questions. And remember, real estate is hyper-local, meaning that what happens in your neck of the woods may be different than other areas. So that's why we encourage you to, call us and talk to us. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.